Hey guys, I'm going to be working on lesson 19's homework with you tonight, and it's all word problems, so buckle in. Alright, on first it says to use the RDW process to solve, which stands for read, draw, and write. So first we're going to read each problem, we're going to draw a picture that might help us solve it, and then we're going to write an equation and solve to figure out the answer. So the first one says, Isla walked 3/4 a mile each way to and from school on Wednesday. How many miles did Isla walk that day? So she'd have to walk 3/4 to school and 3/4 back to school. But first, let me draw a picture because that's part of the read, draw, write process. So I'm first going to draw each rectangle is going to represent a mile. So on her way to school, I'm going to shade in 3 because she walked 3/4 of a mile. And I'm going to have to draw another one because I can already tell when I add the next 3/4 it's going to be too much. On the way back, she walked 1, 2, 3 as well. So if I count all that up, it looks like she walked 1 whole and 2/4 of another mile. But let's write that as an equation and see if I get the same thing. So 3/4 there plus the 3/4 back would give me 6/4. And if I turn that into a mixed number, with my 4/4 for the whole and my 2/4 that are left over, I'll find that 6/4 is the same thing as 1 and 2/4 miles, so it works out. Alright, let's look at number 2. Zach spent 2/3 of an hour reading on Friday and 1 1/3 hour reading on Saturday. How much more time did he read on Saturday than on Friday? So the keywords here are how much more time. So we need to take Saturday's time and subtract it from, or take Friday's time and subtract it from Saturday. But first let's draw a picture. So I'm going to draw a picture to represent how much he read on Friday, where each rectangle is equal to a whole hour. I'm going to split it into thirds because that's what we're working with. So on Friday he read for 2/3 of an hour. And on Saturday, he read for 1 1/3, so he's going to have read for a whole hour that I'm going to fill up here, and 1/3 of another. So I should have left more space, but I'll draw a rectangle over here, and 1/3 of another hour. So I could tell that it's 2/3 more just by looking at the picture, but let's also write an equation to check. So I'm going to have my 1 1/3 hour that he read on Saturday, subtracting the 2/3 that he read on Friday. And in order to subtract, I need to turn my mixed number into a fraction greater than 1. So a whole is equal to 3/3 plus that 1/3 is going to give me 4/3. So now 1 1/3 is 4/3 minus 2/3. And I'm still going to get 2/3 of an hour. So he read 2/3 of an hour more on Saturday than he did on Friday. Two-thirds an hour more on Saturday. Okay, let's look at number 3. Mrs. Cashmore bought a large melon. She cut a piece that weighed 1 1/8 pounds and gave it to her neighbor. The remaining piece of the melon weighed 6/8 of a pound. How much did the whole melon weigh? So we need to take those two weights and add them together to see what it weighed originally. But first let's represent this with a picture. So I'm going to draw a rectangle, and each rectangle is going to represent 1 pound. And I'm going to split it into eighths because we're talking about eighths of a pound. And I'm going to go ahead and draw 2 because I already know it's going to be greater than 1 since she gave away 1 1/8 pound. So I'm going to separate both these into eighths. Okay, and first I'm going to represent in blue what she gave away to the neighbor. So actually I'll do it in red. She gave a whole pound away, so I'm going to color in a whole rectangle plus 1/8 of another. And what was left I'm going to represent in green is the 6/8. So she had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/8 left. So all together it looks like it weighed a whole And then this other one looks like 7/8, but let's add those two together with an equation to make sure. So 1 1/8 plus 6/8. Now you could just add the fractions together, but if you follow the pattern we've been doing, I'm going to turn this into a fraction greater than 1. 1 1/8 is the same thing as 9/8. So 9/8 plus 6/8 is going to equal 15/8, which when I turn back into a mixed number is going to be 1 7/8, which is exactly what we found with the picture as well. So it's a 1 7/8 pounds melon. All right, let's go on to our second page. Number 4 says, Allie's little sister wanted to help her make some oatmeal cookies. First, she put 5/8 of a cup of oatmeal in the bowl. Next, she added another 5/8 of a cup. And finally, she added another 5/8 of a cup of oatmeal. How much oatmeal did she put in the bowl? So I'm going to represent, I'm going to underline each 5/8 with a different color so you can kind of see what I'm doing when I draw the picture. Well, need a different color. Let's make that one green. Okay, so I'm going to draw a rectangle, and that's going to represent 1 cup. And I'm going to split it into eighths because we're talking about eighths here. And I'm going to represent each time she added some oatmeal. So the first time is in blue. She added 5/8, 3, 4, 5. The second time she also added 5/8. I'm going to represent that in red. So 1, 2, 3. Well, I've already filled up this whole cup, so now I have to draw another rectangle to represent the next cup. So split it in eighths again. Okay, so I've already added the 3 from that second time, so 4, 5, and then she added 5/8 again, so I'm going to show that in green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like altogether she added 1 whole cup and almost a whole nother one, but it looks like 1 7/8. But let's check that with our addition. So each time she added 5/8. So my problem would be 5/8 plus 5/8 plus 5/8 for the third time. And when you add those up, you're going to get 15/8. And if I turn that back into a mixed number, pulling out my 8/8, and that would be 7/8, you'd get 1 whole and 7/8, which is what we got with our picture as well. All right, let's look at number 5. It says, Marcia baked 2 pans of brownies. Her family ate 1 5/6 pans. What fraction of a pan of brownies was left? So let's start off, let's just draw our 2 pans of brownies. So this is what she started with. And I'm going to separate it into 6 because that's what we're talking about when we talk about how much they ate. So first I'm going to split it into thirds and then split each third in half to get 6. So we start off with 2 pans, and then her family ate 1 5/6. So they ate a whole pan, which I'm going to color in, and they ate 5/6 of the other one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, it's really clear that there's only 1 piece left, which is a 1/6. But let's also try it with an equation. So I started off with 2 wholes, and I'm subtracting 1 5/6, which is the same thing as saying 12/6, because that's how much 2 pans would be, minus 1 5/6, which would be technically 11/6. But I'll show you that up here. 1 5/6. If I took out the whole, would be 6/6. Plus that 5/6, so 1 5/6 is 11/6, and 12/6 minus 11/6 is 1/6. Sorry, not 1 whole, 1/6 left over, which is what we found with the picture as well. All right, last one. Joni wrote a letter that was 1 1/4 pages long. Katie wrote a letter that was 3/4 page shorter than Joni's letter. How long was Katie's letter? So we've got to take whatever Joni had and take away 3/4 of a page to figure out what Joni had. So let's show that in a picture. So I'm going to draw a rectangle, and each rectangle is going to represent a page. So I'm going to have to go ahead and draw 2 because Joni wrote more than a whole page. So I'm going to color in what Joni wrote. Joni wrote 1 1/4. I'm going to color that in red. So she wrote a whole page and 1/4 of another. And then I'm going to cross out the 3/4 that Katie didn't write. Katie wrote 3/4 page shorter than Joni. So 1, 2, 3 of those fourths Katie didn't write. So what's left, it looks like, is 2/4. But let's try that with an equation as well. So the equation we would start off with is 1 1/4. And then we're going to subtract the 3/4. But in order to really subtract, we got to turn that 1 1/4 into a fraction greater than 1, in which we'll get 4/4 plus 1/4, which is 5/4. So instead, we're going to say 5/4 minus 3/4, which still gives us 2/4 of a page that was left. Alright guys, if you have questions, let me know.